All right, so we're going live now. Episode 4, whining with the professor. We just get this YouTube set up here on the tripod. As if you've watched the previous episodes here, you know that I'm doing this solo with no production crew, and we're going live on YouTube and Facebook at the same time, which means one of them has to start first, and it has to kind of see the I don't know, the sausage making that goes on when we get the other one going. So I get this set up right here. I think that'll work for position. So I am right here. All right. Now give me just a second to get the Facebook Live going. And Facebook Live, here we are. Stop sharing the screen. And we're going to go live. All right, 3, 2, 1. All right, welcome everybody to episode 4 of Whining with the Professor. And I hope you guys have all found me here. If you're watching, we got some really nice wine to taste this evening, and I hope we've got some really nice discussion to go along with the wine. And so I've made a concerted attempt to line up the webcam from the Facebook Live and the webcam for the YouTube Live sort of in the same spot, so I don't have to keep doing this all night long. Like when I'm talking to the YouTube people, I'm over here. When I'm talking to the Facebook people, I'm over here. So we got everything lined up now. Getting a little bit better at this production stuff here. And so today let's stop wasting time. Let's drink some wine. Okay. So I've got today the Babylon's Peak Chenin Blanc from South Africa. And so, if you know me, you may know that the Chenin Blanc grape, the Chenin Blanc varietal is actually one of my favorites. And so I have never tasted this wine before. I'm going to try to make that a theme of the tastings going forward, where it's a new wine to me, so that we can experience it together. But Babylon's Peak Dryland Bush Vine Chenin Blanc, 2017. So it's a pretty recent vintage. I know already that I'm gonna like it because it has my preferred seal at the top of the bottle. You know, if you're gonna use a bottle, this seal is probably the best one. The corks are pretty unreliable. I suppose the best packaging for wine is in one of those boxes, but it's really hard to get winos or wine snobs. That's the word, wine snobs, not winos. It's really hard to get the wine snobs to buy wine out of a box. So I think we won't be seeing great wines in the box for a while still. Anyway, Babylon's Peak Dryland Bush Vine Chenin Blanc. Let's try it out. So I suppose I should have just poured a little bit and done my little, oh, that smells so nice, but I'm not doing that. We got a glass of wine in here. Let's get some air into it here. I do really like the nose on this. It's it's fresh. It's I mean, a Chenin Blanc should be fresh. It should be exciting. It should. So when I was introduced to Chenin Blanc as a varietal, it was from listening to somebody's wine podcast, and I listen to a bunch of wine podcasts when I'm doing other work sometimes, and so they were interviewing the winemaker from a South African producer who produces Chenin Blanc. And he said, you should have 3 or 4 bottles in the refrigerator. So when you come home from work, you just pull out a bottle and you drink it. And I says, well, maybe I'll get 3 or 4 bottles in the refrigerator and try that out. But I just, all right. So it's I already am in love with the grape. So the wine has to try hard to be bad, I suppose. Nice. It's actually it's pretty dry. It's got nice crisp, a little bit of acidic flavor on it. I like it. It's sort of like a Sauv Blanc, but without all the grass at the end, and that's actually kind of characteristic of the Chenin Blanc grape, is is it is kind of like a Sauv Blanc, and you drink it the same kind of times that you drink a Sauv Blanc. You drink it, I love it in the summer on a hot day, and again, if you have 3 or 4 bottles in the fridge, that's a good way to go. So I like it. Let's have another sip. So again, it's Babylon's Peak. If you Google Babylon's Peak, you get the web page. Facebook's on the phone over there, so I can't deal with that right now. But I think I can go over here on. Yeah, no, apparently I don't know how to do this. Maybe click over here, edit post. No, I don't want to edit the post. Create poll. No, see video insights. I don't know what are the video insights. Oh yeah, you can see live on. Oh, I don't want to actually watch the video while I'm doing this. So I'm still learning how to use this Facebook Live thing. I got YouTube Live down pretty well. I've done a lot of YouTube Live videos, but I don't try to do any fancy stuff when I'm doing it. What I want to talk about today, besides this wine, which I really do like, I want to talk about today is lifetime learning. And so those of you that know me, and if you're watching now live, you probably know me because this page has like 4 followers. You know that I teach. I do a lot of different things. Somebody said to me once when I was talking about several of the different projects I had going on and things that I was working on, they said, I can't understand how you get so much done. And it really amazes me because every day at the end of the day, I always feel like I could have done so much more if I'd been just a little bit better organized, or if I'd focused just a little bit better, or been a little bit better at this. And so we all have different perceptions of what other people are doing. Somebody said once that if you have something really important you want to get it done, find the busiest person you know and ask them to do it, because busy people tend to be good at getting stuff done. I don't actually believe I'm that good at getting stuff done, but I keep trying. I'm not giving up on it. And so several years ago, actually, it's 13 years and about 3 weeks ago, I started teaching professionally. And so, and I took that job teaching to find out if I would like to teach, because I always kind of thought I would like teaching. And so 13 years ago, 13 years and like a month ago, I had the opportunity to apply for the job. And it was something that I thought, I want to see if I like doing this. And I know they need somebody right now because they waited too long to advertise the position. So they had to fill the position quickly. And I had sort of an inside track. I knew the people that were the decision makers. And I said, hey, I will do this while you look for somebody. And that was 13 years ago. So I guess they haven't been looking that hard, or they liked me. And so I've been doing this teaching job, and I still remember my very first lecture. I had given lectures in other people's classes before, and I had the experience of standing in front of I'd been on stage in front of 10,000 people before, dancing and singing, and so I didn't really have stage fright as a thing. But I remember that night before that very first lecture, when it was my class. It wasn't somebody else's class where I was going to go in for a half hour, 45 minutes, and say something that I knew that I knew it, and I knew it really well. It was my class. I was responsible for the class, and so I did not sleep the night before that very first lecture, and I mean, the whole thing came together so last minute. The person who had taught the class before, they gave me their lecture slides. So I had a bunch of PowerPoint slides, and I get up there and I do the PowerPoint, and I like, you know how at the beginning you read the PowerPoint, like, oh, and this slide is about, click the button. Oh, yeah. So I mean, I must have been horrible, and I'm so glad that when I started teaching in that classroom, they did not have the video capture thing going on in that classroom. So I don't get to go watch that game video from the first lecture that I gave, but I do remember I didn't sleep that night, and I was so nervous about those lectures as we got into them at the beginning. But the other thing I found is, like, when you look in the classroom and you say something and you see, like, the eyeball, like you see the light, and you can do it from in the front of the classroom, you see when somebody learned. And it's an amazing feeling, as long as you're teaching something that you believe in, right? If you think that what you're doing is giving value to the people in the audience, and then you see that they're learning it, it's like a high, and it's a high better than this high, although this one's not too bad either. Okay, so I decided I liked teaching, so this was great because I was a teacher. I mean, I was a professor in a college, and but I also realized I was not very good at teaching. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to get better at teaching. And so when you want to get better at something, you have to learn, right? So I mean, one thing is you have to practice, but you also have to learn. And so I started going to the literature and studying, because I mean, as a researcher at a university, all this stuff, I mean, so what do we do when we want to learn something? We go to the literature. So I go to the literature. And if I want to learn to teach, I go to the teaching literature. I mean, there's universities that give degrees in education, so they must know stuff about teaching. And I start reading papers and reading books and stuff. And the people that were writing about teaching, there was just something about it. It did not get me excited. And I know that there's people that have written good works on teaching, but this never got me excited. So I decided I still want to be a good teacher, but I don't like reading the literature about teaching. What if I started to learn about learning? And so the people that were writing about learning, it actually was much more interesting to me. And they talk about learning styles and learning this and learning, and it was actually really a lot more interesting to me. And I think when I started learning to learn instead of learning to teach, my teaching was getting better. Now, of course, time was going on too, and I hope practice was making me better. There are certain lectures that I have given that lecture. And there are probably a few PowerPoint slides that are still the same slide that were from that very first semester, right? There are probably still a few of them, although maybe not. Maybe all of the slides have been completely edited since then, but they're certainly the same concept on a slide. And I've given the same lecture, the same set of lectures, at least 27 times. And so I've got practice talking about those things. I remember one term I actually went in and I was kind of full of myself. I had learned the stuff in these lecture notes, right? And so instead of using PowerPoints and giving PowerPoint slides to the students and all that stuff, I would walk into the classroom. I'd say, "What's today's lecture about?" And I would wait until somebody had read the syllabus, could tell me what today's lecture was about. And they would tell me the topic, and then I would turn around, I would do the whole lecture. I'd use the whiteboard, running all over the room, talking to them, talking to this, because they told me what today's lecture was about. And I was proud of myself. And then the course evaluations came at the end of that term. And like across the board, I did miserable on the professor seems well prepared to teach the class. And the professor knows the information that the class is about. And I'm like, how could you say I didn't know the information? I did all the lectures off the top of my head. But they didn't see any preparation. Anyway, that's sort of off topic here. We're talking about learning. So I learned a lot about learning by studying people that were writing about learning. And I still wanted to keep expanding because I cannot stop learning. Every day I have to learn something. Today I was actually watching a training video. So training, education. There's gray area where the difference is there. But this was definitely a training video, and it was to teach me a certain marketing tactic. And so the guy giving the training video, he said if you cannot have the lowest price, you have to have the highest price. And so and he's talking about, and so you got to stand out in the market, right? You don't want to get lost in the noise there. Anyway, but that sort of leads into what I was talking about. Is I didn't like the people that wrote about teaching, so I stopped reading them. I like the people that wrote about learning, and I read a bunch of that, and I learned a bunch about learning. But I said, who else teaches besides professors and teachers and things like that? Because I got this desire to grow and learn more. I said, well, people that do sales educate their customers frequently. And I said, not only that, a lot of what I'm doing as an instructor, as a professor, isn't really teaching the student. In fact, I have come to the conclusion over these 13 years, my live video has ended. I don't know why, but Facebook just shut off my live video. I'm going to re-live video on Facebook. Hold on just a second. I am on Facebook, going live. Camera is a webcam, default microphone. No, I want to have the one on the computer. With the professor. I might have to change the name of this site because I can't spell it. Episode 4, part 2. All right, go live. 3, 2, 1. I must have accidentally pressed a button on the computer when I was waving my arms around there and ended the Facebook Live there. But I'm going to move the mouse way away from that. Okay. So salespeople are educating their customers, and what I learned as I was learning to learn and teaching was that it's virtually impossible to teach somebody something. The best you can do is you can inspire them to want to learn the material and then provide them with the resources to learn the material. And so that has been my focus probably for the last 6, 8 of the 13 years that I've been doing this. And to get towards that, I said, that's the same thing that salespeople do. You really want to sell the idea to the students that they want the knowledge, right? And so I've actually taken a lot of sales training and sales training courses, which has helped me because I don't just do the teaching. I also own a couple businesses, and if you are the business owner, then you are the #1 salesperson for the business. So I'm double dipping here. I'm trying to get better at teaching, but I'm also trying to get better at selling because I like to buy wine. And if you buy enough wine, it's not cheap. Or if you buy the right wine, it's not cheap. I should have written down how much this one was. I forgot. I got to get better at preparing the wine tasting notes there. This opens up. The professional wine tasters will give me a hard time here, but as it opens up, I still get that nice and crisp. Nice and crisp. The nose is mellowed a little bit. It was very vibrant at the beginning, but at the finish, it's a little bit like one of the candies from a Pez dispenser. All right, so learning about teaching, learning about learning, learning about sales and marketing, and from learning about sales and marketing, I started to learn about of self-teaching and controlling your personal mindset and auto suggestion. If you want to learn about auto suggestion, you should read Napoleon Hill's book Think and Grow Rich. Get the 1937 edition. That's probably the best one. But I went from teaching to learning to sales and marketing to brainwashing. Because what I really want to do is I really want to sell to students. The stuff that I'm teaching, the stuff that I'm working on, I believe it is the most important thing in the world that we could be talking about. And so I want my students to believe that too. And so it's kind of interesting. You go from teaching to brainwashing. And then it reminds you of the Pink Floyd song. And so if you're my age, it may have been playing on the radio as you went to school on the last day of school for your senior year, like it was for me. But are we just another brick in the wall? I don't know. But I believe that we need to. I believe that it is my mission to get the students to learn, and so I do whatever I have to do to make sure that they're learning. Which means I don't do death by PowerPoint and things like that. But anyway, this was a fun chat that we had. I do really like this wine. You can get this wine at the Wine Vine. Thanks, Sang and Camille. I don't believe that they're going to be tasting this out on Friday, but if you go down there and ask for it, just ask for the South African Chenin Blanc. They've also got a Chenin Blanc. They have other Chenin Blancs in there, but this one is really nice. Ask for go to the Wine Vine. Tell Sang that you saw Whining with the Professor, and that you want to try that South African Chenin Blanc that he had on last week. That is your mission for today, so that. Well, I mean, I told you, I really love Sang and Camille down there. I really love getting my wine at the Wine Vine. If we don't buy stuff there, they're not going to still be there. There's no paid promotion here. I just don't want to have to find a new wine shop. So go to the Wine Vine, buy wine, or cheese, or coffee. I'll talk to you guys next week.